Donald Trump has been sentenced today in the hush money trial. He was sentenced to unconditional discharge, which basically is like nothing. So basically it's 12 more years of Democrats saying that he's a mean baddie. So we've got, Mark Zuckerberg from Timcast News. Mark Zuckerberg was on Joe Rogan today, and he was broing down. We'll talk about that a little bit. He was talking about, I watched it, and he was talking a lot about BJJ. It was pretty interesting, a lot of the Brazilian jiu-jitsu talk. We've got a story coming out from CNN. Joe Biden is complaining about Mark Zuckerberg and his decision to actually remove the fact checkers and go to a system more like Community Notes. We've got a story about California fires, which obviously that's probably the most morose, terrible thing that's been going on in the country. There are talks of people that have been arrested for setting fires, for arson. There's discussions about how many people have lost their lives and stuff, so we'll cover that. And then there was a Supreme Court, it seems likely to uphold a TikTok ban, and so we'll talk about that tonight. But before we get started, go buy some Cast Brew coffee. 2 weeks till Christmas is available. It's got me on the cover looking ridiculous as usual. But you can get that. You can also go and get Ian's Graphene Dream. Tim was talking last night about how many bags they've been selling. They've been just moving out the door. So you want to get a bag of that as soon as you can. You can go to the boonies.com. Is it the boonies.com? Yes, boonieshq.com, and pick up the new board, the 28th Amendment, the sexy chicken on it. The 28th Amendment, chickens being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear and breed chickens shall not be infringed. So you want to run over there and pick that up. Before we get started, go on over to our, go become a member at timcast.com. Join up. Become a member, join the Discord, come and hang out, talk. And when we do the after show, we can invite people from the Discord on to talk, and you can talk to our callers. You can ask any of us questions. So why don't we go ahead and get started with our guest, Riley Moore.
Hello, Riley Moore, Congressman, 2nd Congressional District, right here in West Virginia. A little strange to say. Glad to be back.
Officially Swamp Monster.
Officially Swamp Monster. Shout out to a couple guys, Jimmy Berry, longtime listener, and Jay at True Performance Fitness, which I know you like that place too.
Yes, yeah. Awesome. Thank you for coming. We've got
Riley.
Mary Morgan's here.
You've got Mary Morgan. Hi, guys. You normally see me co-hosting Pop Culture Crisis, but I'm happy to be back on Philcast IRL. And Brett is here across from me to keep me in check tonight.
Yes.
I mean, it's just really hard for me to talk about politics without saying bannable things. So Brett's here to kind of keep an eye on me, I think.
That is 100% what happens. Whenever one of us goes on IRL, Mary talks about how she's like, look, I would do it, but I can't do it without getting everybody banned and in trouble.
Like, we're ungovernable.
It's exactly true. So, yes, it's going to be a lot of fun here. Let's get started, guys. And Serge is here.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't like to talk anymore.
Don't put him on camera.
He doesn't like to be on the camera. I don't think that it's shy. I feel like it's like he's taunting people on X. From the post-millennial, Trump says New York sentencing is a despicable charade and vows to appeal. On Friday, President-elect Trump said that the radical Democrats have lost another pathetic and un-American witch hunt after Judge Juan Marchand imposed a sentence of unconditional discharge in the New York falsified business record case. Donald Trump said the radical Democrats have lost another pathetic un-American witch hunt after spending tens of millions of dollars, wasting over 6 years of obsessive work that should have been spent on protecting New Yorkers from violent, rampant crime that is destroying the city and state, coordinating with the Biden-Harris Department of Injustice and Lawless Weaponization, and bringing completely baseless, illegal, and fake discharges against your 45th and 47th president, me. I was given an unconditional discharge, Trump wrote. If you don't know what an unconditional discharge is, it is A sentence in a criminal case that typically means that a defendant is released from all disability arising under a sentence, including probation and parole. A sentence of unconditional discharge is imposed when the judge does not believe that it would be helpful to impose any conditions on the defendant. Unconditional discharge and eligibility is governed by state laws, which vary by state. And if you ask me, this is literally just so that way the Democrats can say Donald Trump is a convicted felon and we got him.
It's 100% correct. I mean, that's what the whole point of this is that we've sworn in a convicted felon as the president of the United States. That's his whole point of this. I mean, even the prosecutor, you remember Alvin Bragg,
Yep.
he backed off of this and didn't want to move forward. It was the judge himself that decided to move forward on this. But I would like to point out this truth post by President Trump. He is very much back. And in rare form.
I can't not read that and not like the guy.
I think that my favorite thing about Donald Trump was his Twitter account and his Truth Social account. So it's good to have you back, Don. It's good to have you back.
I'm not trying to be a cheerleader or anything, but did they think the convicted felon part was going to make him sound less cool?
Fair enough. I really do think that it was just about they wanted to be able to say on, because it's about the very, very committed progressives, and they want to be able to say this is about, or they want to be able to say on X and on, journalists want to be able to say, hey, we are, what do you got? What do you got? Oh, okay. They want to be able to say that we got him. It's just about we got him. See, he actually is a convicted felon, and now we can officially say it, and it's real, and that means that we kind of won, even though he's back, and now we can poo-poo all of the conservatives and anybody that would actually vote for him. We can feel great about ourselves while we say you're a terrible person because you voted for a convicted felon, and I didn't, so I'm so much better than you.
If it's not overturned by the court, I hope he pardons himself on the way out.
Can they do that?
I hope so too.
I don't know. I don't know if that's ever been tried.
I know that question has been asked before, but I never have ever got a straight answer on it. So is the point of doing it before the swearing-in ceremony, in your opinion, you think it's because they want to be able to say, you swore in a convicted felon? I just find it funny because it's not like that stopped people from having that argument on Twitter, because the same people who are saying that he's a convicted felon before he actually had the conviction are the same people who talk about being an insurrectionist, despite the fact that nobody ever got, accused
these
of
are
actual
just
insurrection.
verbal tics. These people basically have Tourette's. They're like, convicted felon, like racist. Like if it wasn't convicted felon, it was going to be something else. So no one is listening.
Or
ultimately meaningless.
Exactly right.
Well, it's like when they bring up, he's been legally prosecuted for sex crimes,
He's
right?
adjudicated.
Yeah.
So we got a post from Ed Krasenstein, and I'm gonna save my my opinion of Ed Krasenstein, but it's just so that he could say, convicted felon. That's it. That's the tweet. The whole point of it was just to be able to say, look, he is a very bad man, and now the court even says that he's a very bad man, even though this whole case is fabricated because there's no underlying crime that raises the 34 misdemeanors to felonies.
These people were like opposed to the system.
Oh no,
the criminal justice system.
No,
corrupt.
They're not opposed to anything at all. They're completely.
Don't screenshot me doing that.
Now you just told them.
That doesn't matter anyways because they believe there's no truth but power. So they love to wield the system against other people, despite the fact that they don't believe in the system to begin with.
That's exactly right.
Now we're just spinning our wheels, saying they're hyphypocrites.
And I would point out
they're not even hypocrites because it's not about hypocrisy. It's about hierarchy. It's okay for them to do things, but anyone else that does it, it's there. No matter what you do, you're bad. So they're just going to poo-poo you no matter
Ends
what
justify
you do.
the means to them.
Absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
And Ed never disappoints to do something disappointing.
I mean, like the worst part of that tweet is that's the tweet. It's how boring it is. It's not even creative.
From the guy that just yesterday, when Barack Obama and Donald Trump were sitting next to each other and yucking it up at the funeral of President Carter, he was like, "Oh, we should come together and see even they can be civil and et cetera, et cetera. Right. And then, of course, today he's like, convicted felon. Haha, gotcha.
That's actually the most maddening part about it, right? Because there's no actual intellectual through line, meaning that he can say that one day and then act completely different another day. So how do you actually get along with people who don't have any type of consistency in their behavior?
You don't. You mean
like you can't inherently trust someone who's going to act completely different the next day based on what they believe to be true.
You meme them until they cry, and then you meme them crying. That's completely what you do. There is no, just like you said though, there is no consistency. There is no no ideology underneath it except for power. What do we got? Breaking. This is from Brian Krasenstein on X. Breaking. Judge Juan Marchand sentences Donald Trump to unconditional discharge. He is officially a convicted felon. For all the people who shouted and screamed at me for calling him that before, I told you so. He was Marchand. However, the considerable, indeed extraordinary legal protections afforded the office of the chief executive is a factor that overrides all others, he says. They do not reduce the seriousness of the crime or justify its commission in any way. One power they do not provide is the power to erase a jury verdict. Ordinary citizens do not receive those legal protections. It is in the office of the president that bestows those to the office holder. It is the citizenry of this nation that recently decided that you should once again receive the benefits of those protections. But as I was saying earlier, and in case, I mean, we've gone over the conditions of this particular case multiple times, but in case you aren't aware, the felony charges, the 34 felony charges that they love to talk about, that Donald Trump has been charged with, they're not felonies in and of themselves. They need an underlying crime that happened prior to the felonies to raise them from misdemeanors to felonies. And there's no crime that anyone has articulated or can articulate that Donald Trump has committed to raise them to felonies. So these are all actually misdemeanors. And on top of that, the statute of limitations of this particular crime, they had run out and they extended them so that Donald Trump could be charged. This is Banana Republic stuff. And it is unquestionable that it is. So anyone that's taking joy, like Brian Krasenstein or anyone else, that takes joy and glee in saying, oh, Donald Trump's now really a convicted felon, these are the people that allow for society to break down from the inside. Because if you don't have a judiciary that the people can trust, then you have people deciding that it's not worth going to the police. That means that they take the law into their own hands, or they don't report crimes, and you end up with a downward cycle in your city. And you see this in New York now, where people aren't reporting crimes. They don't go to the police. They don't feel like the police are going to do anything. And it's caused massive uptick in crime, and it causes a breakdown of society, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and it also just erodes trust in the entire system and the citizenry, right? I mean, there's guys like Maduro down in Venezuela that just stole another elections looking at us like, wow, I can't believe they did that. You know, I mean, this really erodes our legitimacy and our authority, I guess, as you could say, as the United States of America. I mean, it puts us in a really bad position where we're trying to tell maybe perhaps other countries or other people like, hey, maybe don't do this or this or that. How can we even say anything now? Right? I mean, there's no moral authority here in the United States.
Because the CIA will tell them what to do.
Yeah, very quietly.
And the other thing that's annoying about stuff like this is like how far down the timeline, whether it's one of the Krasensteins or anybody else that's like a far leftist on Twitter, how far down their timeline from some tweet about Donald Trump being a convicted felon will I have to go to find something about how great Luigi is?
Right.
Well,
But he's not convicted.
Yeah.
Brett.
That's the problem.
So to be fair, I do think that, and to be fair to Krasenstein, I do think that he's been fairly good on Luigi. I don't think that he's been.
I'm using him as more of a baseline for
it's not
that
hard.
sect of Twitter to begin
He
with.
did
It's
a
not-
bad thing.
Yeah.
It's not hard to find people that have made apologies for Luigi on the left at all.
I want to pose a question. What would have been Trump's sentencing outcome had he not won the election, in your opinion?
They would have thrown the book at him.
He'd be in prison.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm just checking what y'all think about that, because I was worried while he was still on the campaign trail. He seemed kind of spacey, kind of tired, and I was concerned that he does he really understand the gravity of the situation for himself, just selfishly?
I think
speaking?
so.
And then afterwards, I listened to this interview that Siaka Massaquoi gave recently, and he talked about getting persecuted for appearing at January 6th and committing no crime. But he was certain that he was going to go to federal prison if Trump didn't win this election.
Is Siaka the guy from Daily Wire?
He was at that election
We
event.
had him on the show, remember? And he said that they follow him at the airport. Like he's like, I go to the airport and they're just there.
Yeah.
Right. He was arrested right after the premiere event for Lady Ballers. Yeah. And it was timed so that there would be as much media coverage as possible. Yeah. And he knew for a fact that he was going to go to federal prison if Trump didn't win. And I just felt like there was so much hanging in the balance, and we weren't really talking about it. I'm still afraid. Like, I mean, the inauguration is coming up, and I'm worried genuinely that there's going to be some kind of black swan event. Like, I'm serious, like some kind of another assassination attempt, some kind of mass casualty situation.
So I completely understand that kind of worry. I don't think, because Donald Trump has won and it's been certified, even if something happened to Donald Trump, it would be J.D. Vance that would be inaugurated. J.D. Vance would become the president. And I do believe that J.D. Vance is as competent as Donald Trump, or possibly more, if I'm honest. I think that J.D. Vance is really, really a sharp guy. And I think that Donald Trump gets a lot of things right because he's got good gut instincts, but he's not reading.
I would imagine there are a lot of interested parties who like J.D. Vance and don't like Trump.
Possibly, but so at least the premise of the conversation that we've been having here is the threat of people with conservative or unpopular or counterculture ideas being punished by the government. So like you were talking about, I forget the guy's name. I'm sorry. What was his name?
Siaka.
So I remember when Donald Trump won. He was walking around the Daily Wire like, I don't have to go to jail. He was serious, and it was truly like, it was real relief.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any question in most people's minds that if Donald Trump had lost, he would have gone to jail. He would have ended up.
Oh, he definitely would have been in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not even like a question.
Yeah, and so today we did the culture. I did the culture this morning with Kyle Seraphin and George Hill, I think was his last name, and that was one of the things that we talked about a lot, is the situation with the FBI and with the government, the way that they've been treating the American people, violating their rights, and completely and totally, completely in the pocket of the intelligence community. They've been just running roughshod over the Fourth Amendment and stuff. And I think that the idea that people could have dissenting opinions, if it had been Kamala Harris that won, they would have gone after Elon Musk for having dissenting opinions. They would have gone after. I mean, I imagine they would continue. They probably would have come up with a reason to discharge Tulsi Gabbard and possibly put her in jail.
I mean, Elon, SpaceX is so reliant, obviously, on all of their contracts for launch vehicles, to go into space. Yeah. That would have been the end of that.
Yeah.
I mean, he put it all, he pushed it all in, put it all on the line. And I do think that there is, this is my view, divine intervention in this entire thing. Donald Trump should be dead. He should be dead. It was a centimeter away from killing him. I literally think God intervened in this. And that is why he's here. I think he understands that. He's talked about that. And if you haven't watched his barn burner of a press conference here lately, I've watched it twice. It was great. It's like peak Trump. He's definitely
was
back.
This from yesterday?
Yeah. And on these whole charges, one of them was him overvaluing like Mar-a-Lago or something like that. And he says, $18 million? This chandelier's $18 million. Like...
So real quick about that, the idea of the problems that they said that arose around Mar-a-Lago and the value and stuff like that, that calls into question if your property rights are safe,
Yes.
and if you can rely on the government, and if you don't have property rights are the engine, are the very foundation of any economy. If you cannot trust the government to protect your property rights and deal fairly with you, then investment stops. Kevin Leary was talking about this on not MSNBC, but the CNBC.
Yeah, I
he
saw
was
that.
talking about that. And it's true. If you don't have a government that will protect property rights for investment, no one's going to invest anything, and your economy will crash. And if the United States economy crashes, the whole world economy crashes. And you're talking, and people get wrapped up in it's only an economic argument. If the United States economy crashes, tens of millions, possibly hundreds of millions of people die, because the United States gives more money away and gives more food to places that are on the verge of starvation than any other country in the world. So if the U.S. economy crashes, it's not just, number go down. It's millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dead people. So the idea that it's just an economic argument, that is a total farce. It is the United States that gives away more money and gives away more food aid than any other country in the world. So we were talking real quickly about Zuckerberg and stuff. So let's go to this story from Timcast News. Mark Zuckerberg was on Joe Rogan, and he was saying that the people from the Biden administration would call up our team and scream at them and curse. So we're going to go ahead and play this here little clip.
There's so much going on. I want to put that in people's heads before we go on. Like, understand the kind of numbers that we're talking about here. Now understand you have the pandemic, and then you have the administration that's doing something where I think they crossed the line, where it gets really weird, where they're saying what you were saying. They were trying to get you to take down vaccine side effects, which is just crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, it's so complicated, this system, that I could spend every minute of all of my time doing this and not actually focused on building any of the things that we're trying to do. AI, glasses, like the future of social media, all that stuff. So, I mean, I get involved in this stuff, but in general, we have a policy team. There are people who I trust. They're the people who are kind of working on this on a day-to-day basis. And the interactions that I was just referring to, I mean, a lot of this is documented. I mean, because Jim Jordan and the House had this whole investigation and committee into the kind of government censorship around stuff like this. And we produced all these documents, and it's all in the public domain. I mean, basically, these people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse. And it's like, these documents it's all kind of out there.
Did you record any of those phone calls?
I don't think we were, but I think
I want to listen.
I mean, there are emails, the emails are published. It's all kind of out there.
I really believe that they didn't record any
No.
of those calls.
No.
I'm gonna press X to doubt on that one.
I mean, I would love to see those kind of things come out. But, the idea that the federal government leans so heavily on Facebook, this isn't a surprise to us here, but it is nice to hear someone like Zuckerberg admitting it. I mean, the Twitter files came out, and you knew that what the government was doing at Twitter before Elon Musk, got in there. And honestly, again, we talk about, you were talking about divine intervention. While I don't share your faith, it is clear that without things like Elon Musk buying Twitter, without things like Donald Trump moving his head just an inch or two, the whole world would be different right now.
Yes.
And so that brings us to this story. Old man yells at the clouds. Oh, I'm sorry. Biden says that Meta's decision to get rid of fact checkers is really shameful, which really, I mean, it speaks to the posture of the federal government that says, they're no longer cooperating with us. And
that he voted for Trump, and this is the way he's talking.
You'd think that he'd be more friendly, that the Bidens would be more friendly to these developments. But no, it's. You want to go ahead and listen to this little bit of? You want to hear the old man poop his pants?
Would you comment on Meta's decision to end its fact-checking operations in the United States? Is that a good decision in your opinion?
Well, look, the whole idea of walking away from fact-checking, as well as not reporting anything having to do with discrimination regarding
It's okay to laugh, guys.
You would never make it in the
GPS.
podcasting world.
I find to be just contrary to American justice, the way we talk about one another.
Dude, this is gross. This is
Telling
abuse,
the
dude.
truth matters. I mean, it's
You can see his mind just working overtime
I know
to
I'm
try to
on national
formulate.
television, but you all are local reporters and national reporters. I'm not. This is not a real question, but what do you think? You think it doesn't matter that they
Squirrel
let
at
it
the
be printed,
control panel.
or millions of people read it,
Right
things
now.
that are simply not true? I mean, I don't know what that's all about. It's just completely contrary to everything America's about. We want to tell the truth. We haven't always done it as a nation, but we want to tell the truth. And the idea that, you know, a billionaire can buy something and say, by the way, from this point on, we're not gonna fact check anything. And you know, when you have millions of people going online, reading this stuff, it is, anyway.
So
I
Joe
think
Biden
it's-
has come out against the freedom of the press and the
that what he
freedom of speech. I mean, that's what it sounded like to me.
I couldn't really tell.
I do like in the future that the people in charge are like, look, if you forget what you're saying, just ask the reporters what they think.
Yeah.
Man, what do y'all
The
think?
idea.
I mean, you know, the audacity of the old man to make some of those statements. I mean, I do think that he is aware of the things that he's saying at that time. I do think that he knows that he's saying, oh, you know, the fact checkers were actually fact checking. I think he knows that he's saying that. I don't know for sure if he knows that they weren't. And I don't know that he understands what like community notes actually is. And
I guarantee he doesn't know that. Yeah.
I mean that's the system that they're going to at, you know, that Mark Zuckerberg was saying on the Joe Rogan podcast, that they're going to be implementing something similar to community notes where the actual users the actual users of Facebook. So I mean, what do you think you're going to get out of that?
Yeah.
But like the actual users are going to be upvoting and downvoting stuff. I assume that maybe he's going to it'll actually be on Instagram where it'll get, you know, normal stuff, because it's just going to be Boomerville on Facebook, but
Right.
you know, things that Nana believes. But
I will be honest, I don't like the way that community notes are used on X. It seems like the most part they're just kind of used as clapbacks and like sassy little remarks. They're like, the community notes are turning into memes, and before community notes were used, you just looked at the replies to a tweet and saw people refuting it. It's
But do you-
Meaning, like
think
you were
that-
you were asking more of the actual engagement
Yeah.
between you and your audience to know that you had to go down through the comments
Yeah.
to actually find the truth, whereas now you just look to the note.
We didn't need to dumb it down like that. And the fact that there were contradicting pieces of information all over the place meant that you go down your timeline and continue reading until you get some amalgamation of what's actually going on. If you have more than 2 brain cells, right?
well, do you think that
Crazy take.
Well, no, I don't think it's crazy, and I think that there's probably substance to it. But do you think that this system is better than the fact checkers?
Okay, yes.
Okay.
But why do we need either one? That's my question.
I'm not sure that we do, but I do think that considering the fact that I think that this is a come a long way from, you know, approved messaging from the establishment, which is what fact checkers were. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg was saying that they're unquestionably ideological, and that they had a specific motivation, and they were telling him that things that were obviously true, that he knew were true. He was saying they were saying things. They're like, no, you have to take this down, and this isn't true and stuff. And if that's what fact checkers are doing, then that flies in the face of everything the old man said.
Well, let me ask you this though: to what point do you think this is? He's shifting really just his business model, because Elon's crushing it on X.
Yes.
And he's just trying to catch up. And it's just a shift in the business model. His mind, his mentality, I'm sure, has not changed one way or the other. But it's just,
But I mean, fair enough. But
which is good. I'm
Like,
not,
do we believe that Mark Zuckerberg just like woke up on the right side of the bed one day and was like, I was wrong about everything?
no,
The whole point is that once you realize that there's a better business model out there that flies in the face of everything that's been going on for the last 8 to 10 years, the idea is you financially encourage it for them.
Right,
Because the
yeah.
best way to get somebody to believe what you believe, if you, or help them see the truth, is to make it financially beneficial for them. If we're talking in the business market, because that's what they're looking to do. They want to make money and they want to continue growing their business.
right, which is look, it's capitalism, it's working. That's great, and the free market has moved him in that direction. I just don't think it's him just.
No, but I don't
his mind.
expect that to, and that's not what I'm. That's not
But Elon actually did it. In my view, there was some altruism to what Elon did.
I agree.
Because he took a big risk.
As far as Zuckerberg goes, though, I mean, I think honestly, a lot of one of the things that Zuckerberg was mentioning was when the United States applies pressure like that, the rest of the world takes notice and they start applying pressure as well. So they couldn't, like, they had to deal with the United States, and then the rest of the world decided they were really going to come down on them. Because if the United States isn't standing up and saying, no, we don't do this, we don't allow this, there was a time where the United States would step in and defend American companies, companies like Facebook and stuff, and they would defend them. The EU is chomping at the bit to regulate, and they'll regulate these companies out of business if they have to, or if they can, if they're allowed to. The United States needs to step in and protect the companies that are American companies. And the United States does have the ability to apply significant pressure to other countries and say, look, you can't tell American companies that they have to abide by your rules.
Well, this is what Tim Cook was saying when he was asked about donating money to Trump's inauguration campaign. Is that people were saying, how could you possibly, the head of Apple, a gay man, how could you donate money to Donald Trump's?
Donald Trump doesn't hate gay people.
But the thing is, but they're ideologically bent and they don't understand that. And he said he's great for he's great for business and he's great for our interests in other countries, and that's the point.
Yeah. One of the things that Zuckerberg was saying when he was talking about the pressure that he gets, I think that the change in his attitude is less because of it's some kind of like awakening, because he's referenced the talk that he gave at a college 5 years ago. He referenced it multiple times. He referenced it here, and some of the people on the board at Facebook were discussing with press, and they had mentioned that same talk. And I think Mark Zuckerberg looks at this as an opportunity. Yeah. With Donald Trump coming in and noticing the kind of change in temperature of society, he's looking at it as an opportunity to take action and do something substantive at Facebook that he believes the United States will help apply globally, because Facebook is the biggest social media network globally still, if I understand correctly. And so that's right. Places like India, which has 1.5 billion people, there is Facebook in India, if I understand correctly. There's no Facebook in China, right? I do believe that Zuckerberg is looking at this through a business opportunity perspective, but I think that he's thinking, I now will have the support of the federal government, the United States federal government, to actually implement policies globally that will be positive for things like free speech and the free exchange of ideas. And I think that he looks at it and says, I'll have the government backing me up, as opposed to trying to fight all of these other governments and the United States federal government. He's not going to be getting the pressure from the Biden administration anymore. He's going to have an administration that isn't hostile to business at all. If you listen to the All In podcast, are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
So I listen to that regularly, and one of the things that they talk about all the time is how the Trump administration won't be hostile to business. You listen to people talking about what's going to happen in California. They're talking about the permits and how rebuilding is going to be an absolute nightmare because the bureaucracy is hostile to business. The left is just generally hostile to business. And if you get a person in a position of authority like Donald Trump that isn't hostile to business, there can be great things done for the economy, for the people. And again, I understand there's a lot of people right now that are kind of skeptical of number go up kind of ideas, but number go up kind of ideas actually translates to human beings living better lives.
Yes, human flourishing.
Yes.
That's what we want.
That's the goal. So I understand, I understand people that are like, look, the United States has to look out for the U.S. first. I totally get it. We've had a lot of conversations about the H-1B visas, and I've learned a lot about the H-1B visas. I was under the impression that the H-1B visas were actually the O-1 visas, we're doing the job that the O-1 visas
They are not the O-1
They're
visa.
not?
No.
I wasn't aware of that, but now that I'm aware of that, get rid of the H-1B visas. They're rife with.
Would you mind drawing the distinction?
So an H-1B, an O-1 visa is where they find someone that is exceptionally skilled at a job, and they say, we want to pick you out of your country and bring you to America.
The way to think about it is like an Einstein visa.
Yeah.
Right. So like the best of the best.
We need
around
to
the
win the
world.
space race. And beat the
Operation
Russians.
Paperclip.
Yeah.
Hey,
right?
Warner von Braun,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on over.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're not always the most. They're sometimes they're unsavory characters.
Lots of Germans back in the day.
Yeah.
The point is, you're getting people that are really skilled at something. Okay. Oh, actually, we got this. The O-1 visa. While both the O-1 and H-1B visas allow skilled foreign workers to temporarily work in the U.S., the key difference is that an O-1 visa is for individuals with extraordinary ability in their field, like science, arts, business, or athletics, while an H-1B visa is for professionals in specialty occupations requiring a bachelor's degree, and it's typically employer-specific. There is massive abuse of the H-1B visa.
Yeah, I'll give you an example, like accountants.
Please.
Companies will go out and get H-1B visas for accountants. We have plenty of people in this country that have accounting degrees. The difference is that they're going to pay them far less money to bring them in on that H-1B visa, which then the American is not getting that job. And so it just doesn't make any sense at all. The whole
what countries
system.
are they looking at for those purposes?
Well, I mean, it's all over the world, but you get a lot from India, for
okay,
instance.
so it's just insane to me that like Vivek is tweeting about this, getting all mad, and he's like, it just means that the accountants from India are just like better at accounting. Okay?
Remember, Mary, they're bringing,
Stop asking questions.
They're bringing them in so that they can replace the Americans who spent too much time watching Saved by the Bell.
They did. They idolized Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell.
I was an
and
AC
Corey
Slater
from
guy,
Boy
but,
Meets
yeah.
World, and now they're lazy
point.
and they're not as good at
Everybody
accounting
stand
as
back
Indians.
because Mary's going to go off and it's going to be awesome.
I'm not going to go off anymore.
Come on!
No.
Another thing about the H-1B visas is that because they're tied to a job, it gives the employer leverage over the people. So if you
Yeah.
lose the job, then you lose the visa. So if you're a person that's here on an H-1B visa,
You're going to fall in line.
yeah,
They
you're going
accept less pay.
yeah, they'll do all kinds of things. So I'm perfectly fine. You want to get rid of the H-1B visa, you want to cut them down to a trickle, totally fine with it. The
I mean,
O1
even just a small fix on it, it would just be first you went out and sought Americans for these jobs, and then in the absence of being able to fill those positions, then you applied for H-1B visas.
Fun fact, they brought me into this company on an H-1B visa.
There you go.
from Michigan.
From Michigan. From Minnesota. But
Well, Minnesota.
Basically-
You're close enough to Canada.
Basically Canada, yeah.
It is like another country up there. It's cold all the time. It's dark all the time. I've been there many times. But yeah, so if they're gonna have the O-1 visas, that's totally fine in my opinion.
Yes.
But anyway, so yeah, let's go to this story. California fires, live updates, 18 arrests so far in Eaton Palisades fires. It's looking like there is significant numbers of people committing arson. We talked about this a little bit and had some video of what seemed to be homeless people starting fires. So nearly a dozen people are believed to be dead, with the Los Angeles County Sheriff saying he expects that number to rise as devastating fires spread across Southern California amid dry and windy conditions, leaving officials scrambling to contain the historic destruction. Thousands of firefighters are battling at least 5 sprawling wildfires spread around the LA area. The largest, the Palisades fire in Pacific Palisade, has scorched over 20,000 acres, destroyed thousands of structures, and is 8% contained. The Eaton fire in Altanita now stands at more than 13,000 acres and 0% contained. More than 150,000 people are under evacuation orders. This is probably the biggest disaster since Katrina. I mean, Katrina was an absolute train wreck of a mess in New Orleans, and this seems to be, I think the
Worse
deaths.
than the hurricanes from last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of damage in North Carolina, and I think that the government performed it will shake out that the government performed significantly worse in North Carolina than here because of the people that are affected here. I think the federal government's going to be throwing money at the millionaires that have lost their $1 million homes and stuff. But I do think that at the end of the day, you're probably going to see at least a few hundred dead. And I don't know exactly how many people died in the hurricanes, but it has impacted a lot more. This has impacted a lot more people. And again, they're predicting fire winds going, picking back up in the next couple days, and with fires that are 8% or 0% contained. These fires have been raging for now 3 or 4 days, and they've had no ability to contain them, or that's just. I mean, that just means that there's going to be, more and more destruction. And look, I've been to, LA a lot, and these areas, there's a lot of shrubbery and dry stuff that can burn.
A lot of tweakers.
And there are
I'm not
a lot
trying
of
to be crass or insensitive.
No.
I never tried to be.
It's awesome
there
when you are, though.
tweakers in the woods doing what tweakers do.
It's true.
And I had an instinct from the first time I saw someone on Twitter point this out that it might be the tweakers. And someone in the comments was like really offended that they would even think that. How dare you?
That's how you know it's true.
How dare you think that this was arson? That's so insensitive that you would even say that.
That's how you know it's true.
It's climate change. Shut your mouth. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's arson.
It's definitely, that's how you know it's true. I have said before, the Venn diagram of mentally ill and homeless is almost a circle. And when you get mentally ill people,
Put them in a dry, shrubby place, things spark.
Oh, God.
Well, the terrible thing on this, too, is so many people did not have home insurance.
Yep.
Because the insurance companies had dropped them because obviously they did their own kind of empirical study on it and said, this place could catch on fire because the state of California stopped the controlled burns. They stopped that a long time ago, and there's all this debris, like that happens anywhere that shrubs or plants or trees are growing that have built up over time.
And the government stepped in and said, we can't raise the rates on here. They wouldn't allow them to. So like, well, if you're not going to let us raise the rates to cover our risk, then we're just going to drop the policies entirely.
Price controls are a form of socialism that always leads to terrible unintended consequences.
Don't forget, they were going to those fire hydrants, and there was not any water in them at all because they'd been letting out this water. President Trump talked about this to try to protect this specific fish that apparently they voted for in a referendum. I think that's right. In like 2010, they voted for this referendum to protect this fish, and so they let the water out into the Pacific Ocean. It's just, this is, people think, this kind of woke culture sits in its own kind of isolated instances. It literally can kill people. Yeah. This is a great example of that. And I mean, it's tragic what's going on. My mom's actually from Los Angeles. I'm actually wearing a sweatshirt today. Shout out to the local 250 steam fitters, pipe fitters. My family started that union way back in the day in Los Angeles. But it kills people. That's what's happening right now, is because government is not doing what they're supposed to do. Don't forget, the mayor of Los Angeles was over in like Ghana.
Yep.
While all this is going on. It's unbelievable. I don't know if they had her trapped kind of like at an airport trying to ask her a question, and she didn't even answer.
So
what
no
did she
answer.
say?
Karen Bass.
When they did whatever it was, the referendum for the fish and letting the water out, did they say that this could be a risk down the line, that there might not be water for the
I don't know that as a fact, but I highly doubt
like that they didn't even bring it up.
And this is but this is the problem with California. The legislature does not legislate because they're cowards. And so what they've done is they put everything out on referendum. You all decide. This is a republic. This isn't a direct democracy. They're running it like a direct democracy over in California. And at the end of the day, the deep state runs the place because everybody is on such short-term limits within the state legislature that the administrative staff that just runs it there, they make the call.
So then these citizens look at it and say, okay, well, they don't have any clue that they could be at risk. You know, the people in there are like, look, okay, we'll put ourselves at risk for this fish. That's insane.
Yeah, I mean,
For this fish.
Like, well, I mean, it's kind of the same thing as like gun control, right? Like you legislate yourself out of the ability to defend yourself because they don't have the ability to think more than 1 or 2 steps ahead.
I mean, think of, outside of the United States, Germany, right? This war that's been going on with Ukraine and energy getting shut off there. They shifted so quick and so rapidly to this green energy economy over in Germany. And then I guess a lot of people didn't know this, but they were still buying coal and natural gas from Ukraine. They shut it off. And next thing they know, there's like, oh my God, my utility bill is 3X, 4X, 5X. What happened? It's literally, I mean, these woke policies can end up killing people. And back to Phil's point, it's not focused on human flourishing, human good, trying to have the individual be able to maximize their life and their true potential.
Yeah. You'd mentioned Gavin Newsom and about the mismanagement. He's calling for an investigation into wildfire water supplies. So KTLA is reporting Los Angeles, California Governor Gavin Newsom has ordered an investigation into the Los Angeles Department of Water of Power amid reports of a loss of water pressure to fire hydrants and limited water resources in the wildfire zones. In the letter addressed to LADWP Chief Executive Officer and Chief Engineer Janice Quinones and LA County Public Works Director Mark Pestrella, Newsom wrote, "The ongoing reports of loss of water pressure to some local fire hydrants during the fires and the reported unavailability of water supplies from the Santa Ynez Reservoir are deeply troubling to me and to the community. We need answers to how this happened," Newsom continued, explaining his decision to order an independent investigation from state water and fire officials examining the cause of lost water supplies and pressure. I am sure they will get to the bottom of it.
How this happened. Look in the mirror. This guy's been in state government, I mean, forever.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that has been discussed regarding California a lot is single-party rule, right? And this is one of the things that we're going to kind of tilt back to or reference back to your talk about divine intervention. One of the things that Elon Musk was concerned with is one-party rule in the United States. These are the kind of terrible things that happen when you have one-party rule. You look at Mexico, they've had a one-party rule in that country for decades, probably 50 years, right? And because of it, the crime is rampant, the corruption is rampant, there's no serious party, there's no serious opposition party, and that kind of single thought process only leads to corruption because everyone. Go ahead.
And right to your point though about the single party rule, they've set it up, they've locked it in like that now because they have a jungle primary system. So for those that aren't familiar, they have this primary where the top 2 vote getters go on to the general election, and many times that just ends up being the top 2 Democrats running in a general election. Just to remind everybody, primaries are their parties nominating somebody to run in a general election.
Yeah. This
jungle primary system is insane, and it locks in single party rule in a state like California.
Yep. So you guys got nothing. So we were going to talk about the arsonist, right? So there's video that we have from the New York Post here of a homeless man with a flamethrower, and he's busted on suspicion of arson near LA's Kenneth Fire after residents detain him. The residents are taking care of this. The police aren't even doing it. That's a terrible development. Go ahead and you want to play that?
Get a close up on that face, bro.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know for sure that this gentleman is mentally ill. But if you're starting fires when there's massive fires already happening,
one could surmise.
I would imagine that you probably are a little on the nihilistic side.
Probably feel like it's easier to avoid getting caught.
Well, I maybe feel like if you do get caught, there's not going to be significant punishment either.
Yeah.
Because historically, California has only recently decided to start enforcing the law. There was a referendum that just passed this past November, where the public decided that they want to see people be punished for shoplifting and stuff. Everyone's seen a bunch of.
So like it doesn't have to be $900 anymore.
And I don't know when it goes into effect, but that was the referendum. They want to see people actually getting punished. And I actually saw a little clip from X of two girls in the back of a cruiser, and they were talking about what happened, and one of them was like, "Whoa, this is a felony? What do you mean?" And she's like, "Yeah, they changed the law." And she's like, "Oh my God!" And they were like all bummed out because they've made crime illegal. There is an argument to be made that says, "Hey, if you punish people for crime, it will deter people from committing crimes."
It is a deterrence. It's been proven out, I don't know, over the last several thousand years.
Yeah. Which goes back to my argument about property rights, right? Even if it's the small things like, a couple $1,000s in clothing or bags that they could grab from a department store and run out the door, if you don't actually prosecute that stuff, then people will feel like it's just acceptable to go ahead and steal, and then you'll get more and more of it. Thankfully, for California's sake, they decided, hey, this is too much for us. We're seeing businesses leave. We're seeing people just continue to ignore the law, and small businesses are the businesses that get hurt the most. The mom and pop stores, as if it's not hard enough to compete with Walmart. It doesn't really hurt Walmart much if someone goes in and they grab a boatload of clothes that they paid 35 cents a shirt for or whatever and run out the door. Mom and pop store doesn't get the same kind of bulk discount, and they can't absorb that kind of shrink.
Nope.
I mean, let's be honest. What are the chances that the guy in that video is a citizen?
Low, very low.
And what are the consequences for him if he's not? Is he going to get deported?
Well, I mean, hopefully, again, this is why.
I mean, I don't like all of this jeering, oh, it's California, let them go to hell, all these.
No, I don't.
These
like
really
that.
edgy takes about how they deserve this, but in a lot of ways, their voting brought this upon themselves.
So there's we're talking about the rampant theft. California's fight against rampant retail theft gets a boost in 2025. A series of laws enacted by the legislature and signed by Governor Gavin Newsom will take effect on January 1. So they have gone into effect now. They include a new method for calculating the value of stolen goods to meet felony charges, lowering the threshold for police to make arrests for shoplifting, and increasing sentences. This is good, and we want to see more of this. And to Mary's point, look, man, California, I mean, we've all been to California, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I love California, but I couldn't live there because of the laws. The awesome things about California are why the government gets to behave the way that it does, because people are like, man, the government sucks here. Exactly. They'll put up with it. But then when you're, in Lakewood in February, and you look over and the mountains are snow-capped and you're wearing shorts because it's 75 degrees, you're like, man, this place is badass, man, because it's sick, man. I've got a lot of friends that live out there. I was out there a lot last year when we were recording the record, and, it's hard to beat. It really is.
The weather's amazing. I mean, it's
In-N-Out Burger, man.
Yeah.
And that's why the homeless population is the size that it is out there, right? Because it's literally the perfect place to live. I mean, it's one of the big reasons, right? On top of all the other things, but it's that it is so nice to live there weather-wise that they can live homeless and not have to worry about, fighting the conditions.
Yep. It's gorgeous. So one of the things that Cernovich says all the time is he's like, I don't want to let the left just keep California. I want to fight to take it back. And I would love to see, sensible legislation come back to California, because it's not like they don't have the tax base. They've got They've got Hollywood, which isn't what it used to be, but they've got Silicon Valley. So they've got plenty of money.
And they have the largest ports on the West Coast.
Yeah, it's the 5th largest economy in the world. I believe.
It is.
Even Hollywood in the last year now, Gavin Newsom had to introduce new tax credits to try to get them to bring production back to California because during the pandemic, they just started outsourcing everything to other countries, whether it's stuff for post-production, CGI, or even now shooting overseas because they get massive tax credits to films in places like the UK. So they're, Hollywood being the huge part of the California economy that it is, thousands upon thousands of people are out of work and they're trying to now coax them back. But once it's gone, it's very hard to draw them back.
Yeah, I imagine, if you lived in California, the Daily Wire's not going back to California. Ben Shapiro's not going back. And they moved not just the Daily Wire, all those families and stuff they left. If you lived in California and you loved it there and you grew up there and it got so bad that you're like, I'm actually leaving my home and I'm going to go, go to Texas or go to Florida, go to wherever. And then it's going to take an immense amount to get you to go back.
And the funny thing about California, though, in a not too distant past, they would periodically elect Republican governors.
Yep.
Right. Like they'd have enough people's I want my
Bernie.
taxes lowered. Yeah. Yeah. And periodically you would see that, right? I mean, there'd be Republican governors here and there. I mean, that's impossible now, but maybe not in the future. I mean, if you look at Donald Trump's raw vote total there in California, it moved up. I think it was close to 2 million or over 2 million additional votes he got in 2024 as opposed to 2020. So not saying it's totally impossible. And we do hold congressional seats in California, in Southern California, Orange County.
Yep.
So, maybe slowly, but surely. I mean, the sad thing is, too, the people that can't afford to move out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the real tough part.
So you can't afford to live there and you can't afford to leave.
Yeah, can't afford to leave.
Because it's expensive out there.
Oh, yeah. Well, and to your point, they've made it so expensive building homes. They put in, of course, another law that every new home construction must have solar panels on it, which then you layer that cost on top of it, environmental impact study, and all this other thing as it goes into construction. And that's how you get a $2 million home that's the size of the studio.
Yeah, I've got a friend that's got a nice house. It's 2 stories. It's not what you would consider by any stretch of the imagination you wouldn't call it a mansion. It's a little bit bigger than my mom's house in Western Mass, and I'm pretty sure that his lot is over $1 million because it's in Lakewood and it's
location.
It's a beautiful neighborhood, and the school there is good, and it's a really sleepy kind of area, and it's really nice. I love going to visit him. But again, it's expensive as hell, and the prices are not going down. And I wonder what kind of mess it's going to be like to try to build back the Palisades.
Yeah,
it's.
There were, some people whose homes are getting destroyed by these fires right now have been offered sums of money that are far less than what would they be offered for their homes. They're getting offered the money for the land for after their homes are destroyed. I did just want to add, too, the unfortunate thing is when people from California are moving to other states, they keep ruining them.
Yeah.
So honestly, I feel like those states, like Texas, for instance, should have the ability to disincentivize them from moving there. Would that be so wrong?
Well, we do that here in West Virginia.
It's happening here too because of DC people coming toward this area.
We do get, there's a lot of people moving into the Eastern Panhandle, West Virginia. But what I'll say is, tale of two Virginias here, Virginia versus West Virginia. We are focused on economic growth here in West Virginia, just like Virginia was as well. But we've instituted a lot of social policies and laws that are not favorable to the left, that they look at that stuff before they move somewhere. And you go to a state like West Virginia where abortion's outlawed, we got constitutional carry, we got campus carry. Like you can carry a firearm on college campuses. Like you can do those kinds of things.
You think people that are, ostensibly on the left or people from states like California, do you think they look into the gun laws, or do they just think everybody has a gun on them all the time?
I think they do, and I mean, obviously, West Virginia's got a reputation, which, by the way, anybody listening, we have one of the lowest crime rates in the country. That's not a coincidence.
The same thing with like New Hampshire. New Hampshire, everybody's got a gun, and the crime rate, the murder rate is lower than Canada. And there are more machine guns in New Hampshire than any other state in the union. More legally owned machine guns in New Hampshire, and the crime rate is.
They're all yours.
I wish. No, if I had Tim Pool money, they'd all be mine.
The ATF's listening.
Yeah, I was gonna say disregard.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about like $35,000 for a machine gun because there's so few of them to start. Like for anything worth buying. Don't get me started on machine guns. Anyway, but yeah, so do you think that they?
I do. I do think they look at that. Now, I mean, obviously they'll gravitate towards college towns. That's just what they do. At least they'll have their own kind of like little microcosm. Morgantown is pretty far left. I'm born in Morgantown. But the county is not, and the rest of the state is not. I mean, Trump won the state with over 70% of the vote.
Is Shepherdstown like that?
Yes.
Yeah, like I drove through Shepherdstown. It was like being back in Minneapolis.
Yes, Shepherdstown is like that. That's the one part of Jefferson County I lose. But
so back to the situation in L.A. The Nick Sorter is reporting L.A. Mayor Karen Bass has just summoned L.A. Fire Department Chief Crowley to a closed-door meeting after the chief blasted her for cutting the fire budget. Chief Crowley has been very vocal about the city failing its citizens. Karen Bass is a tyrant who is trying to force dissenters into silence. Yes. Remove Karen Bass. That op-ed from Nick, and we'll go ahead and play this bit.
Perhaps head-scratching moment in the firefight going on right now throughout the city of Los Angeles. Sources told NBC4 that Fire Chief Kristen Crowley this afternoon had been summoned to Mayor Bass's office. And that is where we are right now. We are standing outside of the office where the meeting that took place at 4 o'clock is still underway.
NBC4's Robert Kovacic.
Is Kristen Crowley the large woman that said if your husband is in a position where I need to carry him out, he shouldn't have got himself there? Is that the same woman?
Can you imagine being summoned into that meeting? It's like, why'd you let me cut the money from your department?
I know. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't Kristen Crowley. But yeah, I mean, look, I think the cuts are probably they're a good thing to talk about, but I don't think that they're actually substantive. If I understand correctly, the fire department's budget for all of LA County is like $800 million. So
pretty substantial.
Yeah, $27 million does matter. And especially when you hear stories about, they're using X amount of dollars for this particular stupid program and X amount of dollars for this other stupid program, some, leftist fart smelling garbage. So, it is worth talking about, but I don't actually think that, as much as I love to go ahead and dunk on the Democrats, like, I don't think that the cuts are the problem. I think that the people in the mismanagement of the problem.
Oh, yeah.
$800 million is a lot of money.
I didn't look into the details, but were there actually funds allocated to DEI?
If I understand. Well, there's I guarantee that the state spends plenty of money on DEI initiatives in any number of different fields.
In this field?
No, I think that was talked about, that they had implemented DEI in the hiring process at the fire department.
Well, there was those articles written that said, like, firemen are largely white and male. Here's how we're going to fix that.
Yeah.
I just looked into it. It says less than 5% of firefighters are women. So we have to get that to 50%, obviously.
That is insane.
Did you know less than 5% of people in the NFL are women also?
I'm sure that, this point has been hammered home on the panel in past nights this week, but obviously there should be no women firefighters. There should be no female cops. There should be no women in the military, no women in the Secret Service.
Nancy Mace was here last night saying if women can meet the standard, then they should be allowed, and that there should be no change in the standard. And while that
did she come out here?
She was here last night.
Yeah, I missed last night's episode.
She was great. And while
If the standard, you should be in a zoo exhibit.
yeah, come on. And I
mean, what do you want there? What is that? Why do you want to be a firefighter so bad?
Oh man, you should.
You mean you can't carry Phil out of here?
You should be on IRL more. You really should.
Odd.
I don't think that
Clearly not a woman who has the proper levels of empathy.
The point that I'm making is I don't think that I think that even if a woman can meet the standards, I don't think that women should be in these roles generally, because I think that it's not that there aren't women that possibly could do it, or it's not that there aren't women that possibly could be in these positions and do them and perform the jobs well. It's that because women are going to put the effort in to try, people are going to invariably they're going to say, well, she's trying, and they're going to they're going to lower the standards, even if they say, well, we'll just give you a hand to get over the line and just give you a little bit extra. And I think that that's something that's innate in humans, because men defer to women. Men are always deferential to women, whether we admit it or like it or not.
Psychologically, when these people are going into life or death situations and saving people, this is going to psychologically affect the male firefighters if there is a female firefighter with them going into this situation. It's the same thing in combat.
Yes.
It F's with their minds
100%.
because they feel like they need to save her.
Yep. 100%. I mean, there are times where, like, if a dude takes a round, if he's running across the street and there's dudes in cover and dude takes a round and he's out there, you're not supposed to go out there, because there's someone out there that's going to shoot you too. And there's going to be two people laying in the street. I just saw pictures from Fallujah of that exact thing happening. One dude went out there to grab him. That dude took a round. Now there's two people down. If it's a woman, they're more likely to be like, we got to get her, as opposed to being like, man, find whoever's shooting and, take care of them before you go get the guy.
Also, it's not just all of these practical concerns, but women have innate value and they are not disposable. Like, they cannot be sent into these combat situations, life or death situations like this. It's kind of lost on people because we're living in this post-birth control age. But it's women's physiology that gives them this innate value, and we should not feel okay about sending them into these situations.
Women are magic; they make babies. You should not throw that away needlessly.
Even if they're super muscly and they fit the standard or whatever, I mean, that's never going to happen anyway. But regardless, it's insane. It's true. It's patently insane.
Let's move on to this story here. The Supreme Court seems likely to uphold the TikTok ban as deadline nears. Now, I know you guys don't care because TikTok bans you as soon as you even open the app.
So no one should have it because we got banned. No one should have it. No one should be able to enjoy TikTok since we got banned.
I've been banned at least once on TikTok.
I mean, selfishly, we grab a lot of content from TikTok, so I want TikTok to continue to exist. Otherwise, my job will get more difficult.
Do you think that if TikTok goes away, do you think that people will just move over to Reels? Because on Instagram, Reels is very similar, or is there something I'm missing?
Usually, like, the popular TikToks make it to Instagram like a week later. So
functionally, it's the same tool, but TikTok is, Instagram Reels is derivative of TikTok For You pages. And they migrate over time. So you're seeing a delayed version of what everyone on TikTok is seeing.
Then it becomes a Facebook video a week after that.
Right. Yeah, and then somehow it ends up
goes down
on
the boomer line.
Then your mom's calling you because, did you see this? Do you hear what they said?
Must be killer for the libs of TikTok.
Yeah. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Well, no, because when Blue Sky, when people started trying to make Blue Sky a thing, there's like libs of Blue Sky too.
There's
Blue Sky libs.
There's definitely that Twitter account. The Blue Sky's hilarious. Yeah. It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it's just Twitter from 2017.
Well, yeah,
capsule.
kind of. They're a little more histrionic now because they've lost a lot. Yeah. So the intensity level of the freak out is a little higher. But one of the things that I've noticed about TikTok that's actually good is the way that they encourage creators. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing uncontroversial stuff, like if you're making food videos or you're doing cooking videos or, you're building, whatever, like little houses out in your yard or birdhouses or whatever, they tell you in clear language how to upload and how to behave to get your account to the point where you're making money and where you're going to attract viewers. And for some reason, Instagram still hides that like it's like it's some magical power. They don't want people to reach the followers.
Far more curated and hands-on on any other platform, and that's what was so mind-blowing to me when I downloaded TikTok in the middle of the pandemic, is just seeing organic virality for the first time as an internet user, because I wasn't around when I started using the internet after
Vine was before your time?
What about Periscope? Did you ever use Periscope?
I did have Vine when I was like in middle school, but like I started using the internet after apps were a thing and everything was user experience optimized, and you didn't have to find your own way and figure everything out for yourself and learn to code to make your MySpace layout and stuff. So TikTok is just like really unique. I don't know because I haven't been on it for years at this point. But when I was using it, it was just perfect to be able to post something and have it actually reach people. And there's no other platform that actually works the same way. Maybe X is kind of like that, but you still have to pay to play.
Well, I mean, as far as X goes, like I have a verified account and stuff, and so that technically that cost me $8. Doesn't take very much to make $8 back in posts if you're posting and stuff. I mean, if you get subscribers, you can get 2 subscribers and probably cover your $8 a month. But when it comes to TikTok, one of the things that I've noticed is if you don't post regularly, then you don't reach anyone.
I mean, both Instagram's the same way. Like you benefit from posting on a regular basis.
But that was
pretty much any platform.
That was normal with Meta properties. Facebook, I used to have a Facebook page, and they got to the point where I had like 60,000 or something like that before I got rid of it. And it got to the point where like I would post something and like a couple hundred people would see it. And I'm just like, why am I letting you get access to all of my data when you won't even like put the people that follow, put my posts into the feeds of people that follow me, especially seeing as, I was doing it for the band and stuff. And I understand they're like, oh, we want you to pay us to advertise your band. It's like, well, I'm already the product, right? You're already stealing all my info and stuff. So I was.
Yeah. And I mean, back to the, monetary incentive, Facebook, in terms of political campaigns, it's the best one.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, it just is the best one in terms of.
Do you think it's because of user base?
I think it is part of that, right? I mean, as we're pointing out here, right? Boomers use it; they vote, right?
Is it is it the specific type of content? Meaning, are we talking like posts that are written, or are we talking video posts?
No, it's all of it, because you can be so targeted on your advertising. So you can literally drill all the way down. I mean, inside of like a neighborhood, if you wanted to.
Wow.
Right? I mean, you can just drill really far, and this is before they started kind of tapering some of that back. But I mean, they'll skew for, and you can go in and say, well, I want somebody who's a 404 voter, conservative, lives in the zip code, that, likely to vote in midterm election, blah, 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 blah. So you can really dial it in. And so you can target ads very specific to a group of people that, I mean, Facebook trends older. Those folks are going to vote.
Yeah. Instagram, which I guess TikTok would trend the youngest, but like Instagram, remember if you last year before the election, they put that filter on Instagram where it says show me less political content, and they automatically turned it on for everybody. And you had to go in there manually to turn it off.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going back to Facebook right now.
I'm going to turn on that mode.
No, it's on Instagram. It was on Instagram. Yeah, like it automatically makes you say, I want to see, like you have to turn it off.
It should be a feature that you opt into.
Yes.
But that is a feature that I would opt into.
Like I think,
sure.
It's probably on already for you if it should have automatically turned on.
Well, Phil, you mentioned Kevin O'Leary earlier, the Shark Tank guy. Yep. He calls himself Mr. Wonderful.
Yes, he does.
He has this plan where he's going to make TikTok wonderful, and he's been making his bid to buy out the U.S. assets of TikTok alongside Donald Trump or some other benefactors he's trying to crowdfund.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what the plan is after today, but
but that was like the rub on the whole thing is that the CCP
Right. His
controls
main
TikTok.
point is like, this isn't about free speech. This is about user privacy and U.S. citizens having control over their data. And I don't see how an American entrepreneur owning the U.S. assets of TikTok would give American users any more control over their data. I would just like to reiterate, as I brought this up on IRL before, this exchange from instant messages that Mark Zuckerberg sent back in 2004, early days of Facebook. He said, yeah, so if you ever need info about anyone at Harvard, just ask. I have over 4,000 emails, pictures, addresses, SNs. People just submitted it. I don't know why. They trust me, dumb fucks.
Yeah.
That's what he still thinks of you, and you can guess anyone who controls a social media platform, that's what they think of you and the control you have over your data. The fact that it's another American citizen who has control over your data makes no difference.
They will just sell it to China anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure they might, but my what it seems like to me is China has talked about shutting down TikTok, or ByteDance has talked about shutting down TikTok before they'll sell it, which leads me to believe that it's actually an asset for espionage, right? So you're not allowed to bring a phone that has TikTok into any government building or installation, if I understand correctly, right? But if Riley's kid has TikTok on his phone, that might be something that the CCP looks at as valid.
Oh yeah, of course they do.
Anybody that works at SpaceX, if their family has TikTok on their phone, that might be something that's valuable. Anybody that works at Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, anyone that works at at Apple or at IBM or any of these companies that are they're definitely military contractors, whether we like it or not. Google is a military contractor. Anybody that works at Google that has TikTok on their phone, that becomes an asset for China. So the fact that China doesn't want to sell it, that they'll shut it down, leads me to believe that it's not about freedom of speech or about the privacy of people. It's about a foreign government having basically a spy ring in the United States being operated by 14-year-olds that are the children of people in positions that are relevant to the CCP. And
yeah, I mean, they're building data files on every individual in the United States that has TikTok. And I mean, if you'll see, they'll push certain content to see if they can trigger certain types of emotional responses, making people sad, making people happy, things like that. So they're kind of testing us to figure out, well, if we were going to do some disinformation campaign in the United States, what would hit, what would not, what we could do to try to spin. So they're garnering and building a massive database of information on the American people. And that's what it's about. I know a lot of people like TikTok. I'm for the TikTok ban, just to be clear. But it's because it is dangerous. It's dangerous for us in the long run.
It is. I mean, it is reasonable to think, if China decides or realizes that, that the Secretary of State's nephew has TikTok, and then they go ahead and fill his feed with stuff to make him depressed, and try to do things that will upset the family to make them stressed out more. That's something that's unquestionably real that they would attempt to do. If they can attack people's personal lives in the hopes that there are positive results for them in in negotiations or in decision making. I mean, it doesn't take very much for them to say, hey, make sure that this particular person's algorithm has a little bit of a change and is doing what we can to make them depressed. And it will know how to make them depressed. It'll know all the things to show them, and in just the right quantities, so that way they're not going to be like, oh my God, my TikTok just for no reason is just showing me nothing but murder all day long. It'll do it in a way that's subtle. These kind of psychological operations are not beyond the ability of sophisticated states like China.
That's right.
Riley, are you saying you're not in favor of a buyout from a U.S. backer either.
No.
You're just pro the ban.
I'm pro the ban.
Why is that?
Well, one, you wouldn't have totality of control by any U.S. citizen of TikTok. The Communist Party of China would still have ownership of the data and the rest of those things, which I think is dangerous for us here in this country. There's been a lot of research on this by intelligence agencies and classified information on how detrimental this entire enterprise is for us.
Do you mean psychologically? Or do you mean
yes, psychologically, but then also to Phil's point, I mean, so what if, somebody's kid, I don't know, Secretary of State is on TikTok and all these apps have location devices and they happen to know where that individual is.
So you mean actual like spy rings and things like that?
Yeah.
Their ability to track, okay.
Yep.
So because Johnny Governor can't control his nephew, everybody else has to lose out on TikTok.
That's right.
Dances.
I mean, to be honest with you, the idea of the sonar thing that they did in The Dark Knight or whatever, that's completely reasonable to think that they can do now.
Not back when that movie came out. There was no way those phones were holding all that data.
Fair enough, but nowadays, that kind of stuff is something that I wouldn't put past them. And anything that's been made in China, anything that was built in China, they're all compromised. Your phone is compromised. It's just a matter of, can they isolate you, and are you interesting? I'm not interesting, because I'm just a guy that talks on the internet and yells.
I mean, how much of our computer equipment comes from China? Like,
it's all compromised.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So everything's compromised, but we're just focusing in on TikTok specifically.
Yeah, I mean, go back and look at. Do you all remember Huawei? So this is the Chinese telecom company Huawei, and it was obviously made public now, found that they got contracts in Europe. They had some in the United States, but European example is a good one, where they had gotten a contract with like governments in Europe, and all those phones are tapped, all of them. And so Huawei was able to, record conversations of thousands of individuals working in the government through these Huawei contracts. I mean, that's what China does. I mean,
look, man, Israel blew up the crotches of like everybody in Hamas.
I was going to say, but I didn't want to be vulgar, but when China saw that, they were taking notes.
Yeah, I mean the truth is it's not like these ideas are actually that far fetched. The idea, maybe before the exploding penises in Gaza, you could say, that's kind of far fetched and stuff. But after you see, a bunch of dudes' junk get blown up, it's like, well, maybe they can kind of look into everybody's phone and stuff. At the very least, it made it more real.
Was the date they chose to uphold the ban specifically designed to prevent Trump from trying to stop it unilaterally?
Maybe. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know.
Because it's the day before
he
takes office. So that just seems
that would seem to make sense to me. I just don't know it as a fact. And I think Vivek came out against the ban on TikTok as well. But yeah, look, everybody's got a different opinion on it, but
it is funny that considering how much Biden and the Democrats love to court the TikTok audience, meaning influencers who are specifically using the platform, to then get stabbed in the back by him on that to start to destroy their, one of their forms of income.
So we're going to take a hard turn here. We got an update from California. The Daily Mail is reporting, Daily Mail and a few other places, it's all over X now with conflicting reports, but the Daily Mail is reporting breaking news. LA fire chief is dismissed by Mayor Karen Bass after lashing out over department cuts as deadly blazes devastate city. Los Angeles Fire Department Los Angeles Fire Department Chief Kristen Crowley was fired by Mayor Karen Bass on Friday afternoon, a source close to the chief's office told DailyMail.com. Apparently, she was summoned. She was in the room for just a handful of minutes and then was left, and everyone is being somewhat they're not being clear about what actually happened. Some people are saying that she's fired. A statement from the mayor's office says the mayor and chief met. The priority remains fighting these fires and protecting Angelenos. So that's not clear as to if she was or was not fired. I'm not sure that it matters if she's fired, and if she did get fired, it was an ego thing, which kind of makes me think this is. I mean, even if she was, it's not going to be anything substantive, and it's all about catfighting because they're both bad at their jobs.
Get it? Because they're women, he's saying.
Wah, wah, wah.
Not really outrunning those tyrant claims, Karen.
No, that's true. She's not. But I don't think that this actually matters. I think that it speaks to the fact that there's incompetence abound in Los Angeles, in the fire department, and in the city government.
See, if it was satire in a movie, like they'd be in a room in an office, and there'd be like literally flames behind them out the window as she's firing her.
There might have been.
I think Gavin Newsom had a press conference like that. Did you see that where he was like on the scene and like things are just burning behind him?
Wrong.
There is one. I don't have a link to it, but there is one.
Serge, you gotta find that.
Gavin is speaking, and a building, like the roof collapses as he's talking.
It's literally
roof collapses behind him as he's talking.
It's literally the "it's fine" meme.
It's great.
I wanted him to stand up there and just be like, the arsonist had oddly shaped feet.
Yes, it is the "it's fine" meme. The Leslie Nielsen, "it's fine, just fire going all around him. But yeah, I mean, the incompetence just doesn't stop. I mean, if the mayor had any sense, she would have waited until after this was done to fire the fire chief, because it does just point out the catty infighting going on.
Like, see, a competent male.
I feel like you're making very intense eye contact with me right now.
It's like a competent male politician would have waited to fire.
I'm aware that you would.
Like, you know what I'm saying, Mary? Come on, jump in here.
You would never make the mistake of thinking that you should be in the fire department.
I mean, she's doing failed politics 101, which is, we're gonna go put some heads on some spikes. It's not me. It's these people. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean,
you've seen it a million
What
times.
did Gavin Newsom say? Is like the locals will have to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean that's the locals have to figure it out, and they can't even not bicker at each other. It's ridiculous, and it's offensive to the people that have to live there. I think this is actually Serge. I think is pulling up the clip, because I believe it was I think this was a CNN clip.
What's funny is, showing it.
No, go ahead.
Gavin Newsom's wife was an actress, and I just last night watched an episode of a television show where she plays the wife of a corrupt politician, who then gets arrested at the end.
Very good.
Yeah. It's that's never going to happen in actual
art imitating life.
Jennifer Newsom and Zelensky should film a rom-com.
They should. It was an old episode of this show called Delegates, and her husband played a corrupt. I think he's a corrupt. It's not a governor. It might have been. It actually might have been a governor, and like she's like his wife, and she's like, I'm the brains behind this operation. My family's the one with all the money, and then she ends up being guilty at the end.
I mean,
that predictive programming.
What?
Life imitating art.
Yeah.
Oh yes. All right. So, what do you got John Fetterman up for?
Pope of Greenland.
So, John Fetterman saying that he should be the Pope of.
What makes you the Pope of Greenland specifically?
What makes you the Pope of any specific country?
Yeah, that's
It's
what I'm
not
asking.
being Catholic, is it?
The whole point is that he's the Pope of the whole world.
The universal church.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Universal church. There's a pope.
He doesn't.
Kind of oxymoronic.
The current Pope is less than Catholic, I think. He doesn't.
Don't counter signal Papa Francis. We're not even gonna get into that discussion.
Oh, come on, Mary. I'm trying to get you riled up.
I see that you're doing that. I'm chilling over here.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's anything positive to be said about the Karen Bass firing the chief, and I think that it's it probably speaks to the incompetence going on.
I'll say one thing about her is many years back, I had worked on the Hill. I was a congressional staff member, and I was there when she was there. She was one of the most unimpressive members of Congress, and that's saying a lot, that I had ever come across.
Karen Bass?
Yes.
Would Rick Caruso have been a better choice?
I think anybody would be a better choice at this point.
That was an interesting thing to follow because we followed like the way celebrities were kind of going into different corners about whether to vote for Karen Bass or Rick Caruso.
Yeah, I know nothing about Rick Caruso, but that Katy Perry voted for him and that people were mad at her for doing so. But when you say she was unimpressive, what's your evidence?
Other than this fire,
yeah, for
dumpy
back
looking
then,
or clothes.
Yeah,
what did you witness?
She
Let us in
she
on
was
it.
very. I mean, she had no really originating thoughts or insights as it relates to any public policy whatsoever. Really, kind of took cues from whatever the kind of left-wing narrative was on any given issue. She was not necessarily a kind person, I would say, at all.
Kamala, mini-me.
Yeah, probably 1.0. And then,
I mean, all of that sounds par for the course for most politicians.
Yeah.
I guess it's for it to stick out in my mind is
Back when
it's
you still had
interesting.
a twinkle in your eye.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to change this
Can
place.
still get Fetterman 2028 though, guys. Let's go.
Still gonna happen.
Still gonna happen.
Fetterman getting more based.
Yep.
I'm for it.
Fetterman's hilarious. All right, so we are going to go to Super Chats. And let's see, we'll start out with Shaky Owens? Can you make this bigger? The font? What happened to the office of the president-elect? That only works when there is an old man that actually shouldn't be the president. That is the president-elect.
I forgot about that. The office of the president.
They were serious about it too. They were like,
built
this
like a
is
sign.
This is a serious thing. Blah 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 blah. And now
They're like,
not
if
so
Trump
much.
gets to create Space Force, we're gonna make the office of the president-elect.
Biden's on the last day of school
Yep.
right now.
He's just coasting.
Yeah.
I think that was the day after he was elected.
They're just doing coloring pages at this point.
They stopped giving him the CIA super drugs, I'm sure.
From the Emperor's Champion, do states like New York and California, who are so mismanaged and corrupt, deserve to retain their statehood? Should they be reverted to territories and only readmitted after they have been cleaned up?
Nah, well, we can't eject. Well, I guess you can necessarily, but no, I don't think we should eject states from the United States.
What's the process of ejecting states? Do you know?
I don't. Obviously, we've had states.
So states can't leave if they want to. But
Well, we've had them secede before.
Not successfully.
Yeah, not successfully. And we've had them divide before successfully. It's how we live in this great state of West Virginia.
That was right after the Civil War, right?
Right when it kicked off, actually.
Right at the beginning of the Civil War?
Yep.
Okay.
1863.
Let's see. Just Because I'm Free says, so people know Phil has Tim locked up in the basement. Hello, Mary and Brett, and congratulations on the play button for PCC. Phil should take off the hat so people don't confuse him with Tim. Does this look like a beanie, homie?
Different hat.
It's just the same color.
Yeah, we just passed 320,000 subscribers, but just got our 100,000.
YouTube finally got
Yes.
around to giving us the 100K play button.
Bro, India
Wow.
was
Congratulations.
India held up the All That Remains one for like 2 years.
It's H1B's fault.
Seriously. So what happened?
It's all the H1B.
I had to like file a claim with YouTube to get the play button, and it's Jasmine from YouTube support, and I'm just like, I know this is some AI chatbot.
Again,
This is
Jasmine,
not.
if you're
Jasmine,
watching, shout
you're
out.
a real one.
Thank you.
But I put in the application, and they're like, well, you want to apply? Like, here we have to look through your application and see if you qualify. And they said it could take 2 to 4 months. I'm like, don't you just like look at the subscriber count and then send it to me? No, it took 3.5 months for them to.
Like, what
to
are
go
they?
through it.
Are they verifying that the subscribers aren't bots or something?
No, I don't know what it was, but Jasmine was
I
very
think that's
nice.
what they're doing.
We're 220,000 subscribers away from that milestone.
Yes.
Now, a million soon.
It seems like just yesterday you guys were at 100,000. That was like 6 months ago you were at 100,000, right? You guys have really just been like going.
I guess we're just really popular.
Yeah, I guess people just really like us.
Yeah.
But thank you, Jasmine. We like the play
Thank
button.
you, Jasmine. Thank you, YouTube, for giving us the validation that we so desperately need.
Tacty Platty. Hi, Tacty Platty. Hey, Phil. Great to see you and my congressman in PCC tonight. Any chance Riley can introduce a bill to ban plastic bag fees at grocery stores?
You know, that
Federally?
those are states that do that, and I would be honored to be the person to try to ban that federally. It's the most annoying thing in the world when I'm not in the great state of West Virginia and I'm, down in DC as I was this week, and I'm like, can I get a bag? Like, it's extra 5 cents. I'm like, what?
Maryland is really bad with it too now. A lot of places.
I feel like that's less of an irritation than like when people are just like, can you give me a tip when you're like, you went and you got the pack thing that you wanted at the store.
Yeah.
You brought it to the table and you're putting it out and then they're like, would you like to give us a tip? No, I don't want to pay you extra.
And then it's like built in when you like pay for it at the counter.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the tip, and it's like, but I'm just picking it up at this window.
You just
here.
mean like tip culture in general?
I don't mind giving, like, when it comes to like tipping a server or something like that, I tend to over tip. But like,
I was at a liquor store recently and they turned an iPad around on me.
bro,
really?
what were you buying?
Soju.
The worst was we were at like a Red Wings game over the holiday break, and they asked for a tip at the arena where it's already like 10,000% more expensive than anywhere else.
Concession
Yeah, at the
stand?
concession
Concession
stands.
stand
Yeah.
line?
Where they're like heating up nachos?
It was pizza. Well, it's the Red Wings, so it's at Little Caesars. So
Okay.
they have like multiple Little Caesars booths there. So it's like, so I already pay too much because it's not a $5 pizza anymore, and you're paying way more than that at a stadium because they're like $8 at a regular location now. So you're paying like $15 there, and now you want me to tip you?
And they're putting these employees in such an uncomfortable
And that guy's not
position.
getting
They're like,
the tip.
It's gonna ask you a question, no pressure.
Please don't,
I don't want to
please
be
mad at
them
me.
in that
You
moment.
feel like that they're like no pressure because I feel like they're like it's gonna ask you a question.
They
No,
have
they're not
said-
gonna
no,
do
they
that.
have.
Yeah.
Most
They're looking
of the
at you like,
time,
what
they're
are you
like,
gonna
no
do?
pressure. They say that, and I
Really?
feel bad for them that they're put in this position.
I feel like I've got pressure on me. It's like, it's going to ask you a question. I'm like, oh.
Okay, like I don't know if like in this case, like is he logged in to like a specific account on there that's got like his pin in there, so everybody who tips in there, it goes directly to him, or does it just go
Or is it
to
like
the
pooled?
coffers of
Yeah.
the stadium?
Well, service industry, you'll be happy to hear Donald Trump will eliminate tax on tips. That's one of his things he wants to do.
and you
He
should
wants to
tip
put in the
your-
reconciliation package.
I would love to see it.
Yep.
I would love to see it. Actually, I want to ask you, do you think that it's better to go with one gigantic omnibus that is guaranteed to have a whole bunch of crap you don't like, but actually get all the stuff you want? Or do you think it'd be better to have multiple bills?
I think, to quote Donald Trump, one beautiful bill. One beautiful bill.
But it's going to have so much garbage. It can't be beautiful. I know that that's his.
But
his
there
vernacular,
are
but-
restrictions, though, because you're doing it through the reconciliation process, right? So there's only so much you can put in that the Senate parliamentarian is going to accept. So it has to do with revenue generating measures. And it has been ruled previously. Those can be things like immigration. That can be energy. That can be, obviously, taxes. Cutting federal government. Like in this reconciliation package, we're going to try to cut, it will be in there, mandatory spending. Just not to get on soapbox here, but mandatory spending in your budget, by the way, United States of America, that's 75% of all the money that's spent. We fight over these funding bills that go through appropriations committee. That's only 25% of the money that's spent.
People love to make us stink about, like the military budget and stuff like that. The military budget doesn't even come close to being the problem that we're facing. Mandatory spending, unfunded liabilities, the entitlement programs, those are the things that are going to kill the entire economy. The discretionary spending is it's a tiny drop in the bucket compared to the mandatory
It's
spending.
drop in the bucket. Like when you compared, let's say, Medicaid to defense spending, you're talking trillions versus billions. It's a huge, huge difference that you're talking about.
Yep. All right. What do we got here? Super chats. What is this one? Broman992 says, honestly, I'd rather have the left saying Trump is a convicted felon than have them screaming about how he only got off because the Supreme Court is rigged. Honestly, I kind of agree with that. because they're going to scream about, whatever. And if they did have the narrative that it was the Supreme Court that helped Donald Trump,
like the guys he appointed.
then you might, they might actually be able to fundraise off that narrative and possibly even do some kind of, possibly in the with the next administration, or the next Democrat administration, actually make changes to the Supreme Court, which I think would be terrible for
Try to stack the court.
Yeah, which would only turn into 17,000 justices because the Republicans would have to reply with the same thing when they get into power again. So, I do think I think I agree with that. All right, let's see. Cain Abel says, do not support Zuckerberg. The story why he changed was there was a light and he decided to change. The light being Trump being declared on TV as president of the U.S., and Zuck had no choice. I don't know that that's actually the case. And I don't think that, like, him deciding that he is going to, loosen up on the restrictions on Facebook or Meta properties. I don't think you have to trust him for that. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by trust, because I don't use a lot of Meta properties anyways. I have an Instagram page, but that's really about it. But I'm not sure what you mean by trust.
I think, like we talked about, I think it was like a culmination of factors, right? Yep. It's financial incentives. Obviously, Trump's part of that, but I don't think it's just one thing specifically. And like trust, I don't.
Do you trust Zuckerberg?
Me?
Brett?
No. Oh, of course not. I think he just
already know how I feel about that.
Mary wants to go to Hawaii and find him and beat him up.
I did not say that. I did not say that.
I mean, you shouldn't trust any of the big business CEOs, but what you should do is you want to know that the businesses they're running have the financial incentive to, act in a way in which benefits you, right? That's the whole point of the capitalist system, is you encourage them because you can't expect them to have the same morality as you. Business doesn't run on morality. And so does it really matter if I trust him? No, you go based off actions and then just go from there. I don't know.
Wise words from Brett.
It's the first and only time that's ever going to get said.
So backhanded, Phil.
Oh,
so catty of you.
No, and Phil's calling women catty.
I know,
earlier.
right?
My goodness.
Never. It's creepy how on the same wavelength you two are.
Yeah.
You guys can finish each other's sentences. Konakashi says, what do you think would happen if Trump put a hold or cancels any federal aid or future funding unless California ends its sanctuary citizen status or sanctuary city status? I don't think it's possible, is it? It would be Congress that have to.
And even if it was, it'd be bad optics.
Yeah, I mean, look, Congress can proviso any federal dollars, right? I mean, you can do that on any of that through executive action. That was talked about in the last administration, last time Trump was president, if I remember correctly. You could do that, but the way they're going to go about this is that we're going to have a massive deportation operation that's going to take place here. And they're going to start with the low-hanging fruit, which is the people, all of you.
Short people, right?
Yeah. Everybody who's watching this or listening to this right now are the criminals, people literally in prison that you're paying for that are not in this country legally. And you'd be shocked at how many thousands and thousands of people that are. And then all the convicted felons. And I mean, there is a lot of low-hanging fruit there that's going to be, because how are you going to find these people? It's actually not that hard, to find folks who have broken the law in this country. Start there, and then we'll see where we are.
I'm going to start with a whole new batch after that, because I think the American people have kind of made it clear that they want to see deportations of not just people that have committed other crimes, but they want to see deportations of people that have come here illegally. We've seen, poll after poll after poll that said people say that there's like 70% of the American.
Yeah, it was 70%.
Yeah, 70% of Americans say that
support mass deportations, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Listen, Debbie Downer over there.
Call me in 2 years and tell me if it's happened. It's not going to happen. Stop trying to make mass deportations happen. They're not going to happen. Tell me in 2 years.
Mass deportations are going to happen. Stephen Miller, we just met with him.
He's in Congress.
And he's laid out this plan very clearly of how they're going to go about doing this. People are going to get deported. That is going to happen.
In your face.
In my face that people said it's going to happen? That's in my face? Okay.
And we're going to build the wall, just to be clear.
Oh, sure. I'm so excited.
It's in the reconciliation
I can barely
package.
contain myself.
Oh,
You don't want a wall?
Of course I want those
big,
things. Of course.
beautiful wall?
I, more than almost anyone, would love for that to happen.
Mary's
it's not
allergic
going
to hope.
It's not going to happen. Trump is a heartbreaker.
Let's see. Hale Gailey says, crime requires a victim, Phil. The left lane is for hurting the government's feelings. The state loves to fine you over their butthurt. This is true. But I think it's still a succinct way to tell people to get out of the left lane unless you're going to be going over the speed limit, specifically a lot over the speed limit.
Shout out to all drivers in Ohio. They get into the left lane and slow down.
See, this is literally what they were talking about earlier, and I was saying that everyone
You're
in
from Michigan.
No, I'm from Minnesota, but my fiance is from Michigan, and everybody in Michigan that I talk to hates people in Ohio, and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, why do you hate everyone there? And one of the reasons that they mentioned was that they all drive 60 and they stay in the left lane.
It's a fact. So much of the state of West Virginia borders Ohio on the Ohio River. I'm telling you, as a fact, they do that.
Yeah, it's a horrible state to drive through.
I tell you what, I when I was just driving the Jeep, it was much more frustrating because the Jeep isn't fast. Like, you can't get around people. If there's passing on the right is not an option because it's, kind of dangerous and it's slow and I got the Tesla. I tell you what, man, I'm not worried about passing on the right anymore. It only takes half a second. I'm by you. So you should still get over into the right lane if you're going slow, but the left lane is for crime, man. Get out of there.
I'm scared of people like you.
Are you? I think I went over 100 miles an hour like maybe 2-3 dozen times in my life before I got the Tesla. I can't keep it below 100 miles an hour if I'm passing someone now.
Can't just say that on the internet.
I did.
I'm telling on yourself here.
Nobody important watches this.
Whoa!
Like 50,000 people or whatever are watching now.
Shots fired.
I'm kidding. Just Because I'm Free says, if you want to stop a lot of the Democrat insanity, then we need two things: a citizenship question on the census, and representation is dependent on U.S. citizenship.
Bingo.
Immigrants shouldn't have representation in government. I feel like that's it should be obvious.
So Trump tried to stop that last one. The census took place under Biden. The congressional district apportionment happened, and it's literally anybody who is living and breathing in a congressional district is how they count those districts.
Yep.
That's why Republicans got over 74 million votes for the House of Representatives, but we have a 2-seat majority.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I keep, there's times where we'll be talking about something and we'll get ideological on something, and I'm like, hold on, guys, we got to remember, we only have a tiny majority, and we're going to have to make deals. That's why we have to do we're going to have to do one big beautiful bill.
Yeah.
Because you don't have enough of a majority to shove things through. You don't have, no matter how much people perceive that Trump has a mandate, Trump doesn't have the votes to say, I'm doing whatever I want. If there were 60, if we had 65 senators and 300 people in the Republican Party in the House, it'd be like, all right, it's on. Do whatever the heck, the conservatives want. That's clearly, let's do it.
And what we get scared of, and you just kind of touched on this, go back to even when the Democrats had the supermajority under Obama. They had all these things they were going to do. The end of the day, all they got done was Obamacare.
Yep.
One big thing. And this is a party, the Democrats, that just vote lockstep.
Yeah.
They don't stray and could only get one thing. That's why I'm concerned about breaking it up into two bills that you'll get one little bill done in the beginning and then you'll never get to the rest of the big stuff.
Why is it like a lot of people have mentioned, like when Roe v. Wade was overturned, like why didn't they try to enshrine it as an actual constitutional amendment during
Because then they couldn't use it as a cudgel.
Well, that I understand that, but I'm saying, is there another reason for it? I just assume it's because they fundraise on abortion. So if you make it a constitutional amendment, it is no longer something that they have to worry about. Therefore, it's no longer something that they can extract money through.
Well, constitutional amendment takes 2/3, though, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, they didn't have the numbers on it, but why they didn't just?
They wouldn't have been able to. You don't think they wouldn't have been able to flip any rhinos on that?
I don't think so. I mean, that's a death sentence out on the streets in like a Republican primary. I mean, but it's a good point. I don't know why they didn't try it. I mean, they just continue to bludgeon us with it. You know, to Phil's point on it. Yeah, I mean, they're fundraising often and everything else.
I mean, that if Donald Trump had lost, I mean, that's why the midterms in 2022. Where the red wave didn't happen was straight up because of Roe versus Wade being overturned, and it's such an effective argument. There were tons of people that were making the argument, I'm voting for Kamala Harris because women need to be able to control their health care, right? Like, even though that is a complete and total farce of an argument, that was still the argument, and it convinced low information voters, and people that were like, 50-year-old women that can't get pregnant are like, I got to make sure my daughter can kill my granddaughter.
Is low info voter just a euphemism for females now?
No.
Yikes.
I didn't say that. Do you think that, Mary?
I didn't say that either.
It actually came out of your mouth, though.
Just an idea. We're just spitballing here.
I'm just saying. Lunderwear? Does that say Lunderwear? It looks like it says Lunderwear. Focus with Mr. Bocus is now live. I've been waiting for this since I dropped that name in chat almost 2 years ago. Gonna buy my first bag of Cask Brew now. Are you actually the person that came up with Focus with Mr. Bocus? Is this actually canon, or is this just lore? It looks like it. So you can go ahead and bring that up. You can get Focus with Mr. Bocus and Ian's Graphene Dream, and 2 weeks till Christmas. You may not realize it, but 2 weeks till Christmas is a play on the All That Remains song, 2 weeks. It's a big song. Got a platinum record for it.
Is Ian kicking your ass at the coffee sales? Right now?
Ian's crushing everybody. It's ridiculous. And also the coffee that I'm doing is like just a Christmas one, so it's not even like it's not like a regular coffee. So I'm not worried about the fact that the Graphene Dream is crushing it, because this is only for a short time, and it's gingerbread flavored, so it's not like a regular coffee that people are going to be drinking. The thing that surprises me is the Alex Stein cocaine-filled coffee. 17 times the
I do
caffeine.
like the photo. I don't know if it might send people off just a little bit. Like, you wake up every morning to put it in your cup. You're like, I don't know if I can do that right now.
I have never done cocaine, but I know people that have. That looks like what a cocaine user looks like. I'm not saying that Alex Stein uses cocaine, but I think the artist really captured the essence of someone using a lot of cocaine. So go and get your Cask Brew coffee today.
Hunter Biden's probably a customer on that one. He's like, there's cocaine in this thing?
I'm glad they went with the official spelling of Bocus's name.
I didn't.
No C in Bocus.
Oh,
just a K.
Okay.
Rest in power, by the way.
I never use the K. I always use the C on every hashtag.
Yeah, and you're wrong.
You've
just been proven wrong.
Nope.
Live on air.
Nope.
Let's see. Super chats. Let's see. What are you doing moving it around there? Oh, okay. Game Sushi says, Phil, been a fan of All That Remains since I saw you guys on Fuse TV in the early 2000s. Man, thank you. I appreciate that.
What you should have done.
Saw you guys around 2009 at Soma in San Diego. That show was sick. Soma was a great room, man. You were going to say?
I'd say Phil just reads like, Phil, I love your music super chats for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean,
we could do that.
I mean, the people aren't wrong.
I mean, look, the people got a voice, and they want to talk about All That Remains. You know?
How do you remember that show?
I don't remember. I can't say that I specifically remember the show, but I remember Soma. And also in 2000, like we probably only played in Soma in 2009, like one time. And I know that it was on the Overcome tour because Overcome came out in 2008. So I don't remember specifically what was happening. Like that show, I couldn't remember like things that happened, but I remember the shows in San Diego were sick. I remember Soma was a sick room. So, and I remember the tours that were going on in 2009 for All That Remains were awesome. So that's how I remember.
I was just thinking maybe you remembered that guy.
Maybe no, I don't remember seeing him.
No.
You think I was just lying to him? Bro, I remember, homie. Yeah. Miss Leonberger, is that what it says? Shout out to Riley from Spirit of Fear Clothing. Hope you're enjoying the stuff I sent you. Love to see you skate in it in DC, maybe on the steps. You gonna grind the steps, Riley? Will they allow you to grind on the steps? Do you think?
I don't know if they're gonna let me allowed to grind the steps.
You know what?
I need to get back in the park over here though. I haven't skated in a little bit.
I hear that it's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
This is true.
So I know a guy that has some cameras. You should get someone to go out to.
I know. I need to.
That would be a sick video for the boonies.
We could go up there and shred on the hill.
That would be sick.
Like, they can't stop me,
right?
Yeah.
Do it in April where there's going to be a bunch of cherry blossoms happening in DC.
I do want to mention something that it is my intention to start the Congressional Skateboarding Caucus, which does not exist.
Who else can skateboard?
There's one person up there with a longboard. I don't really count that so much. Yeah, I don't really count that. So
it's just you so far?
Just me so far. But the point would be to, as people are talking about building parks and open spaces and things like that, is take that into consideration and trying to advocate for skate parks as well. And just trying to elevate the sport in its own. I mean, I've been doing it since I was 12, which is a very long time ago.
It gets people out and gets people moving, right? Get out and touch grass.
Exactly. Get them out, get them moving. But, certainly something that's changed my life. I think it could change a lot of young people's lives.
Awesome. All right. So let's see. Super chats here. The text vet, I'm sorry, says that immigrant that was arrested was already let go because of a supposed lack of evidence of intent. The story is out there. He was actually arrested because of an outstanding warrant and let go. Good job, California.
He's like
sick.
He's got the flamethrower in one hand, and they stop him, and he's just like, "No, I wasn't doing anything."
There's a related super chat from Crowag. The neighbor who they interviewed for the suspected arsonist used words most don't use, like citizen's arrest and detained, called a blowtorch a flamethrower, then later what it was he didn't speak English to. Sniff test failed. I don't know.
This is one of the reasons, and I was so happy to be able to be on this. One of the first bills I co-sponsored and just passed the House, it's gone over to the Senate, is the Lake and Riley Act. And so I'm a co-sponsor of that piece of legislation. And it's to stop crap like this from happening. It's insane. And, California's doing it to itself. And they're going to have a real reckoning on this sanctuary city, sanctuary state, whatever they're doing over there. The Trump administration is going to show up. And there's going to be no more of this anymore. No more.
Yeah. Curtis, WSCER, I think it says. Who cares what they call him? Literally everyone who's going to call him a convicted felon already thought he was a convicted felon. Yeah, I mean, the whole point of it is just so they can talk, and it doesn't actually change the facts that the whole thing is illegitimate anyways. They extend, like we said earlier, they extended the statute of limitations. There's no underlying crime that raises the misdemeanors to actual felonies, but he was still convicted on felonies. So it's all bogus, and it's just so the Democrats can feel better about themselves, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it means nothing to me other than it irritates me. But, at the end of the day, Trump is the man.
He's the president, at least.
Yep.
Missions says, Phil, what do you think about the Finn McKenty drama? I think Finn's hilarious. I think he's great. We get along fine. And it doesn't bother me that he doesn't listen to music. Look, the guy just had a kid.
There's drama? What's the drama?
So Finn McKenty said on a podcast or something that he's like, look, man, I don't even listen to music anymore. He does all the music podcasts and he talks about the scene and he talks about all these bands and stuff. And he's generally accurate when he's talking about at least the facts surrounding bands. His opinion notwithstanding, people can agree or disagree. But he said in a podcast, he's like, yeah, I don't even listen to music. You know, he's not in the scene anymore. I mean, I think the guy's over 40 and, you know, he just has a family and doesn't do the scene thing anymore. And it makes sense to me. I understand it. I know there are people that feel like because he covered music on YouTube that he should have been, you know, actually listening to music and like living the scene and stuff. And I just think that that's a little naive, you know? I mean, look, people that do things for a living, a lot of times they do things for a living and they don't take it home. And that could mean being a musician. That could be covering music. I know plenty of people that play music. There's a lot of bands, right, that broke up for a reason. Then they got back together. They didn't get back together because they don't hate each other. They got back together for a bag of money. And there's like, oh, we can make how much money if we get back together?
Oasis.
I mean, I don't know about Oasis, but I'm not gonna point any fingers or say any names because I know specifically multiple bands that have done this. But I mean, there's a band called Carcass that literally he just said, oh, why did we get back together? Someone threw a big old bag of money at my feet, and I reached down and I picked it up.
Can I point out Heartwork's an awesome album?
Heartwork is an awesome album. It's one of the best metal albums of the 90s.
If people don't know about Heartwork, go look that up right now.
Riley, man, you're great. It is. Heartwork is absolutely, it's an essential death metal record. So yeah, let's see. One more we got here. Andrew Davis says, shout out to Adam Jarvis of Misery Index for being the best drummer from Illinois. Troy Boys and the Cheers Band. Love the show, guys. Thank you very much. I didn't realize that you know the Misery Index guys. Another killer band. So, one more? We got one more. Okay. Lemmy Frost Designs. Phil and PCC are always among my favorite lineup. Could listen to you guys chat about anything for hours. Well done on hosting tonight. Tim Love from Lunchtime, Western Australia.
Let's go.
Good morning.
Wow.
Good morning down there where everything's upside down. All right, smash the like button. Share this show with your friends. Don't forget to buy Cash Brew coffee. Riley, do you have anything to close with?
Got a lot, but you can find all of that at REP Riley Moore on X or Riley Moore WV on all my other social media things. We got a lot of great pieces of legislation we're working with the administration on. And as I said, proud to sponsor that Lakin Riley bill, and I think it's going to pass in the Senate and become a law, thank God.
If you would like to find me online, and you probably do, my Instagram and X are both at Mary Archived, and you should go subscribe to Pop Culture Crisis. We go live every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and Brett's about to tell you to do it again.
It was like, you're screwing up my outro. I do the same outro every time. Guys, if you want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. And remember, as Mary said, PCC is live Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. If you'd like to listen to the audio version of the podcast, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, rate and review on there as well. Thanks, guys.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix, and don't forget there will be updates throughout the weekend on Timcast IRL and the Culture War channel, and we will see you guys on Monday.